Dzień dobry Państwu. Bardzo miło mi Państwa powitać w Instytucie Myśli Politycznej im. Gabriela Narutowicza w Warszawie. Bardzo się cieszę, że Państwo tak licznie przybyli na panel zorganizowany we współpracy z Zespołem Filozofii i Kultury i Instytutu Filozofii i Socjologii Polskiej Akademii Nauk. Przepraszam, Zespołu Filozofii, Kultury i Polityki IFISPAN. Na panelu poświęconym dziejącym się już od roku protestom w Serbii i przekazuję głos Krzysztofowi Katkowskiemu, który będzie prowadził to spotkanie.
Okay, so it works, I think, yes. Okay, as you could read in the description of the event, I'm actually facilitating these discussions. I will give voices to people who have to speak about what's happening there. I'm just, here a person just to keep this in frames and try to sometimes maybe comment with a joke or something to make you listen to us. I hope that you will listen. I would also, and as you could read there, we'll speak in English. I hope it's okay. If not, I can translate some words or try. So also I would like to welcome our guests that came here from Belgrade. So firstly, and Vera Mevorah from Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory from University of Belgrade, and as well Adriana Zachariewicz, and Marta Szpala from Polish Academy of Sciences. And as we're in the Institute for Democracy, we'll speak about democracy, but democracy that's not only, in this very classical definition. That's democracy that we use procedures that work or not, because as we are now in Poland, we can see that speaking about the rule of law can be democratic or not. So it can be fetishized, whatever. We want a bit to talk about the protest in Serbia and what was commented there, for example, by Slavoj Žižek, that I guess we all know. If you didn't read his books, I guess that everybody here read, as we are about this Academia of Humanities, and we have to. He commented that that's actually the true democracy that went on the streets, and of course it like catalysator of the protest that now lasts for a year. It was a disaster in Novi Sad, which was like a detonator of all this social now struggle. And yeah, now it is being commented that it's like the new 68, as we had a brief talk before, that even Francis Fukuyama is looking there at Belgrade and looking for the democracy there. I hope that he will find some peace. Yeah, some surprises and some peace in his life, and that his comments that are positive for you are his, not last, but yeah. So I will end here, because if I will talk more, it's no sense. That's all that I have to say by now. But I would like to start with a brief question, not from our guest to Belgrade, but to Marta. So, because we all know that Serbia is in the south from us. Yes, we can go there by a bus or a plane whatsoever. But if you are looking at our political and media discourse, you can see that Vučić, their president, who is claiming to be democratic, whatever, he was compared that during when we used to have the far-right government of peace, that actually the situation in Poland, in Serbia, and in Hungary is actually the same. Of course, it's not true, but I wanted to ask specialists why. And we are talking now about the situation in different place, in different country. So now I'll just ask, and I won't add anything more to say something stupid. So please, Marta.
Okay, thank you very much. It's like as we were preparing for the panel and for the discussion, we discussed it internally that sometimes we are observing the process, we are following it, but somehow there is like a bit confusion, especially among the Polish society and journalists, how the system in Serbia works. And now when I'm looking on the audience who is there, maybe it's like we don't need that, but I would like to discuss or introduce you to the power system in Serbia, just to create the space for Adriana and Vera to describe like what was happening there in the past year. So as Krzysztof said, it's like Serbia. It's like looks like democracy from outside. We have the elections, we have the institution, but is it really there? It's like, especially as I am political scientist, some are saying that we have illiberal democracy, strange term, in Serbia, Hungary. Sometimes it is described as electoral autocracy, but and I think we as a political scientist are struggling how to describe this system which is there, not only in Serbia, but I think in Serbia it's like most developed one, and like my apologies for like simplification and sometimes maybe being too blunt. Yeah. No, to you, but because for the sake of the argument and to give you better understanding how system works in Serbia, although from outside and when we are visiting Belgrade, it can be seen or perceived at some kind of democracy and normal state. So especially when we are speaking about the President Vučić, when he came in power in 2012, he built, and this is like person, but I think his personality is influencing how the system works as a system which is controlled by actually one person. And the thing is that it looks like democracy and that we have liberal economy, free market economy in Serbia, but actually it is not. And especially like Vučić as such and his close circle, he are really aiming on controlling everything, everywhere, and everybody. And this is very important. And he wants to decide about everything and how the system is working. So actually, we have this kind of term that is like state capture, so that the party in power is capturing all institutions who are not working for the sake of the citizens, but they are working for the sake of those in power. And this is also happening in Serbia. But what is like really important is that really those in power want to capture and control all the institutions, not only state one, but also trade unions, universities, schools, and actually it's like everything. Church, yeah, everything is subordinated to the system. So the strategy is either to capture the institution, and it is what has happened with the state, with judiciary, all create parallel one, which we have the parallel journalist organization, we have a lot of gongos who are pretending that they are defending civil rights or some other rights, but actually they are cooperating with the government. Or if it's impossible to discredit, to capture the institution, they try to discredit. So they create something like the system that really in the society there is no institution which are outside the control of those in power. And then like one example which is also quite telling, that especially this year, but it was also before, that there is no municipalities in Serbia which is governed by opposition. So it is either the governing party or parties who are cooperating or are allies of those in power. But it is going really deeper. So this year there was a struggle to control, and we can call it in Poland, Rada Osiedla. So, you know, and the village council. So this informal institution which are representing the community. So it's not like that is, you know, only about who is winning the election, but really like they would like to create, like not to leave any free space for people to gather and to decide about themselves. To this point that, you know, the decision about the pavement in the, you know, neighborhood has to be decided by those in power. And this is like the space of freedom, the space of organizing himself for the citizens. It's really limited. So this is one thing. The second thing that, you know, it's like Serbia looks like liberal economy, but actually it is not. And those in power control, and through controlling the access to resources, jobs, contracts, everything, they also are controlling people. So we can say, like, it is, we sometimes say it as an anecdote, but in the Serbian governing party, there is 700,000 people. So it's like 12%, 15% of the population, because if you are not belong to the party, you have no access to jobs, to contracts. You have to be in the party to have it. And party, like this membership, it's enabling you to have access to money, to power, but what is also more important, because the party operates like a mafia structure, also impunity. So there is no case in Serbia when somebody in power was responsible for some wrongdoings, but was prosecuted by the prosecution. So there is no, there's like this is also, so it's like it gives you money and also protection. So this is this kind of how it is operating, and actually this kind of some kind of capitalistic economy gives you more opportunity to really control the population, like through the money. So if you are against the government, against the government is like, okay, it's always risky. But if you don't agree with some decision, even if we are talking about this pavement in the neighborhood, where you are considered as an enemy of the state and somebody who is challenging the government. Because, as I said, the government, like, there is no space for citizens to decide about anything. And this is like also the aim of the system. So actually, it's like people in Serbia, like the title was like defending the democracy. They don't have a trust in democratic process. They don't have a trust to the institution because they are captured. And this is like one side note about the political system, those who don't know how the system operates, and this is also something which strengthens the position of Vučić and position of governing party. That voting system, the electoral system in Serbia is quite different than ours, like in Poland. So people are not voting for the person and of the party, but they are voting for the party list. Who is on the party list? It is the decision of the party leader. So it's not that people are accountable to the population, but they are accountable, and this is like party leader who decide if you are in the parliament or not. What is also more important, that Serbia, 7 million, 6.5 million, it's one electoral unit. So people are also subordinated to the party, not to the population, because there is no like territorial representation. So it is impossible, and actually it's like quite irrational to build the popularity among the population because it's changed nothing. It's like party leader who decide if you are in the parliament or not. And we will be discussing it why election and where is a problem with electoral list. We have the open list system. So actually, if you are popular on the ground, if you have the support of the population, you can get to the parliament. In Serbia, it is impossible because you need strong party structure and party leader is deciding. Two last thing, media. We also have the problem with media, but we don't know really, I was traveling lately in Eastern Serbia. It's like media is creating parallel reality in Serbia. And it is really, now we can say, you have an internet, you have the access. Access to the internet, it's not expensive for us, even in Serbia, but for the local population, it's quite expensive. We have 3 printed media, which are some kind of free in Serbia, but you can get it in big cities. I was in Zagubnica lately, in Bormaidan, but actually there is no printed media at all. So the only source of information is state television. Or, of course, you can buy cable television, but it is not everywhere, and it is also expensive for the local population. So state television is something when people are getting the information from. And the media, the role of media in this kind of system, it's rather to, I would say, create confusion with the population. So not to inform, but actually, disinform. But the amount of disinformation is really huge. Because it is multiplied by the bot system on social media. So you have the bots, you have people who are working in the state institution who are also multiplying this kind of disinformation on the social media. So people are usually very confused what is really happening in Serbia. The 2 things, and it was the strategy of the government for quite a while, is also to scare the population, actually to create this kind of feeling that state and they are in danger. It's it is usually done by, creating fake crisis and tension with the neighbors, so that the local population should be scared because Kosovars will attack them, Bosniaks are attack them, some West will do something. And also to discredit those who are against the government. So actually when you would like to oppose the government, you really are at risk to meet with campaign in social media, in regular media, to discredit you. And there was a lot of cases using the private footage taken from the telephone or individuals, which was then put in the tabloids, and used to discredit people. So, actually this kind of internet is not helping because people are usually just confused and don't know what is happening. And the last thing is connected economy and international position, because there is usually a question I am also getting, is Vučić pro-Russian or pro-West? I would say that, and sometimes people are saying, this is kind of balancing position. I think it's not the right thing to put it. I think Vučić is just buying support from the foreigners to be protected and be useful. And he's using, to gain this, he's using the state resources and to access to the market, to the resources in Serbia. It can be lithium, it can be copper, it can be control of energy system. So we have China who get access to copper mine, West who now wants to have the access to lithium. We have Russia who is controlling energy market. So he is using state resources to be useful for everybody. So we can say Vučić is, he is with himself, and his main goal is to be protected and be useful for everybody. And this is the thing. And last thing about the EU, because it's not only lithium, but actually we, especially in Poland, we sometimes think like EU, it's supporting rule of law, democracy. It's not only a case of Serbia, but in Western Balkans, but in Serbia especially, EU is not perceived like that. It is perceived as a supporter of Vučić and those in power, because European Union, and I would say it's like we have the we have the opinion polls of that on that, is interesting in stability in the Western Balkans, and still Vučić was able to convince Western partner that he is the only guarantor of that. That democracy, it's something which can create conflict and tension. And this is actually like risky for whole region. And what sometimes when I'm going to Brussels and talk to the people, they don't understand that what is happening in Serbia, it's actually the result of the, especially when we are talking about the, sometimes, I don't know, nationalistic slogans, let's say. It is also created by the media controlled by Vučić. So Vučić media are responsible for anti-Western sentiment, partially, let's say, not like EU policy is also responsible for that. But actually, he is supporting pro-Russian influence, like pro-Russia sentiment, anti-Western stance, and nationalistic standing of the population. So actually, he is presenting himself as the solution for the problem he and his party created. And this is also something which is quite problematic.
So if I may, I would pass the voice to you, but also maybe ask you after all of this presentation, because you, when we just met this 20 minutes ago, you mentioned that you are coming from a place of hope, of optimism, and I wanted to ask you in which part there is a hope after this presentation.
Okay.
And
I will please put a pause between your question and Marta's presentation for, so it was very uncomfortable hearing this and listening to this. And I don't like being recorded listening to this. And I want to say that something that students did, which was in the beginning of the protests, which brought much joy to us, not only hope, but really pride and joy. And this is their consistent saying to Vučić, this is not your jurisdiction. You're not responsible. We are not interested in what you have to say. So this is the first very great thing that the student movement did. I want to say that you can, I mean, it's very useful in any country to listen to how bad it can get and how a system can collapse. We've been living under one government for 13 years, which has been eroding our social structures for those 13 years. But what's more important, we had an independent commission working in the past 13 years, which came out and said very directly that we are not dealing with crazy, illiberal politicians, or however complex you want to present it. We are dealing with organized crime cohort. So this is being said very directly in Serbia today. So I would like that we focus less on what problem Serbia faces. I think it's clear after what Marta says why the student uprising happened. So I would like, not to talk about our hopes. So we are also not the generation that stood up. Unfortunately, you don't have students sitting here, although they are speaking as much as they can about their struggle. But we can perhaps share some insights of what we perceived in this movement, which I believe is more inspiring and more important than what is happening in Serbia, and somehow even outside the fate of our country. In terms of hope, I don't have much hope for humanity in general. But I am moved sometimes I'm inspired. And for sure, these young people are very inspiring. And the movement itself has many, many positives that can be applied elsewhere.
It's fine. Okay, first, I really want to thank Mikołaj, Mikołaj Ratajczak, who came up with this idea, and also the Institute Narutowicz that brought us here and gave us this platform to talk. This is really important because it is a moment, so we passed the first year of our joint struggle, and it is really important that this story is being heard. What Marta said is absolutely crucial. This is something which was built up for years. We see almost, decades. It's also building on the decades before, what you asked us, and rightly so. So what is happening in Serbia did not start to happen in 1 year or 2 years, but it's there since the breakup of socialism. So that means, and the breakup of Yugoslavia, socialist Yugoslavia. I had a name for what you described in one of my texts. I called it transactional authoritarianism, and this is basically how that also broke the ties between people, fragmenting the society up to the last individual, where everyone can be bought and sold. And this is something which I really believe that in last year we are working with, all of us, facing in the end the fact that we are transactions, not human beings, not lives, but actually as the air, as the land, as the rivers, as the copper, also the humans are to be bought and sold. And that is not easy. The polarization that you feel here as well, I think in the end is not going that deep. So what you said was absolutely crucial. But as we did talk while we were making some kind of little plan how to organize this evening, we thought that as full participants, not just the observers, even though we are obviously not students, we wanted to somehow give you the flavor of what is going on there. Now, when I was listening to Marta, I thought maybe a timeline should be in order. Maybe it would mean to you to hear what was going on in this last year, because that does not go assumed, although I have to emphasize that there was TPO, is that the name of the television? I think that there was no other television from any part of the world that followed the happenings in Serbia as the one in Poland. So I'm really grateful for that, as that was very important to me personally. So let me try to be fast and brief. As you all know, the 1st of November, there is this railway station. People are coming and going. 16 people, that is 14 at the spot, just found themselves passing through, and they died. The 2 others died afterwards, and this is why we stand for 16 minutes almost every day, or now again, every day, to commemorate those lives. Some days after that, so by the end of November, the students, it was like the idea of the academic community to stand in front of their institutions. So wherever the faculty was, the people, students and professors were standing outside. But in front of the Faculty of Dramatic Arts, that was on the 28th of November, the people were attacked. And later on, now with the gadgets, everything can be seen, everyone can be recognized. So what was very fast realized, it was that the people who were the attackers were in fact the regime people, the members of the party who worked at the municipality of New Belgrade, where the Faculty of Dramatic Arts is. In a matter of days, like literally in 7 days, first several faculties, first in Belgrade, then in Novi Sad, then in Niš, then later on in Kragujevac and Novi Pazar, that is 5 of the universities in Serbia, started to enter physical blockades of the premises of their faculties. In the end, somewhere in the mid-December, so not even a month later, only 1 faculty was not in physical blockade, and that is the Orthodox Theological Faculty, even though that students themselves later on joined in and supported in every possible way the whole thing. The professors stood by the students, and this is a very important thing because that is how the infrastructures of the protest was built in a way. Until the end of December, on the 28th of December, so a month after the attack, the students organized, not knowing what they will make, they organized a meeting at the square thoroughfare Slavia in Belgrade, where around 100,000 people appeared. And that was absolutely unexpected, but what was even more unexpected was that people gathered for then 15 minutes, stood in silence, and then just disbanded. And that moment that you are not going to run for the parliament, you're not going to do any of your known rebellion modes, was absolutely something that I think introduced a very potent notion that we need time, that we cannot do this in the way that we already did it so many times. Serbians, this was one side of the story. The other side of the story is the protests every year for months. And then we exhaust ourselves and go home, and we are disappointed and we are sad and we feel helpless. This time, somehow it appeared that this will not have to be the way. In January and February, entire country started to rise. Like literally all little villages, all towns, all areas, east, west, south, north, the Muslim area, the Catholic area, all areas started to rise and to somehow observe the idea that the uprisings are happening, first shyly, but as the reason for that was to stand in silence for 15 minutes in the street, people simply paid their tribute, and that started to happen regularly. At the time, students wanted to make a new thing, the new phase. In my opinion, the most important phase, because as you heard, the tissue of politics, the institutions, including the institution of opposition, was for years gradually and consciously as a kind of a plan, broken down, fragmented. So what the students wanted to do was to organize a general strike. That means to recreate, revitalize this middle ground in between the grassroots people, the voters, and the parties or the people who are representing them. Unfortunately, both of those strikes failed, but the number of people again was incredible. Then, what was the next idea, so that was on the 1st of February and then on the 1st of March, was march of the students to several cities. First to Novi Sad, logically, because that was the place where the canopy fell, then to Kragujevac, then to Niš, then to Novi Pazar, which means that there were thousands and thousands of young people or older generations who joined them, who walked on feet, in very cold months. I mean, it's not as cold as here, but it is quite cold. So they did this, well, in some memories rose the memories of partisans in the Second World War, like the liberators of the country. What happened then, you probably know about that, is the 15th of March when the sound cannon was used. I am not afraid to call this a terrorist attack of the state over its own citizens, and some kind of incredible political or whatever kind of intuition, or the basic fact that we were for days and months standing in the street for 16 minutes, silently observing various kinds of potential attackers, made people not to run in a stampedo and stampedo one another, but to be calm and stand in the street and then slowly disperse, but without in any way injuring other people. For many, that was the end of it. Many people after the 15th of March felt that something died, or they were shot by the sound cannon, or they somehow felt that the moment of something great to happen was gone and lost. And in a way, the four and then 6 demands that the student posed had to be transformed into something else. They were transformed in a demand for the general elections, parliamentary elections, and that really changed the whole idea of what was happening. It was 6 months into the protest, and then there came summer. You probably also know about summer because the summer was full of violence, And that was the first time when the violence was open. But it was also full of incredible creativity on the part of now citizens, maybe more than the students, who were basically keeping the flame running. What they were doing, I mean, they were, for example, endlessly crossing the zebras because you could not stand in one place. But they were organizing some inventive ways to be present, to be physically there, and yet play it lawfully, so to say. One of the reasons why this is super important is because the students insisted from the day one that these are the non-violent protests. And somehow it was not easy once you had 305,000, I'm never good with numbers, 350,000 people in the city when you cannot actually control what the people are going to do, what they're going to try to do. And when you know that the other side is very much ready to use violence of all sorts, because police was always present, but then also paramilitary or para-police or thugs or however you call them, belonging to the regime. So in a way, they were clearing that space during the summer, but the summer was not that dead, what people were kind of afraid of. Finally, we are here. I mean, September and October were somewhat quieter months. One of the main reasons I would say why that was the case was because the students were actually trying to give their exams. They had to because their professors were forced to return to teaching and to classes because for 4 months and a half they were not paid salaries. In fact, they were paid, but 12% of their salaries, which meant less than 100 euros for 4 months. Many did not bear that well, trust me. I mean, we have quite some friends in the academia, so basically the infrastructure of the protests was shot. And then came the 1st of November, when Mikola and I first talked about doing this. I said to him, maybe we wait for the 1st of November because we don't know what is going to happen. Maybe we will not be able to come for whatever reason. Maybe everything's going to be just commemorative, as it was. It really was a very sad day. And the day when the names of the 16 people was really important. For me personally, maybe it was the first time that we really felt that those 16 people are gone and not with us anymore, although the notion was all the time that the institutions are working against us so that anyone could have been there underneath that canopy. Now, maybe you see now where's the hope.
Yeah, I just wanted to put some numbers. So we had over 20,000 protests in the past year in over 400 cities and villages in Serbia. Adriana said March the 15th gathered 350,000 people. So this is the biggest gathering actually ever in Serbian history. Student blockade around 100 faculties. This is 70% of all faculties in Serbia, and added to this is 73 high schools. So we also had uprising joined by high school students. Just little numbers.
Okay, and maybe I will say something about hope. So, as Adriana said, it wasn't the first protest in Serbia. We have been protesting, like you have been protesting since 2016, as you said, every year. But like regime is never letting this to change anything. So this is also the logic of regime. To make people feel powerless, that they really don't have anything. Like there was only one thing where they back up the other project for 2 years, 2020, 22, but never ever any, I don't know, what people are protesting for was never fulfilled. They don't want people to have any feeling of agency. So I think this is what also, and this is one thing, and also you mentioned fragmentation, that we have a lot of small protests because there is a canopy, but we have a lot of accidents like that all over the Serbia. People like Novi Sad, when the helicopter fell down 2016. we have the accident with the army people. So we have a lot of this, some kind of small accident. Never ever anybody was punished for what happened. So we have a lot of, you know, I would say Novi Sad, Vučić regime was quite effective, I would say, in convincing people that this is like individual cases, that it has nothing to do with the system, that this is like individual problems or individual groups. But, you know, somehow the students and what happened in Novi Sad created feeling that system is a problem, not like individual cases. And also what the student did with the pilgrimage all over the country is the breaking the monopoly of information and creating this kind of solidarity among the people. Because somehow, and you can see it in government media where the protests are happening, that, you know, they are traitors, you know, enemy of the state, somebody is protesting. And now you have the students coming to your village, and this action, students in every village, which was great, when the students were going to the villages and, you know, talking to the people, that, you know, it's not somebody, some kind of evil protesters from the national media, but this is Ivana, Jana, who came to our village, who walked through our village. And, you know, and this is our granddaughter who is studying in Belgrade, and not somebody who is, you know, demonized in the national television. And that created this kind of idea of solidarity. But also what protests did, it's bringing the feeling of agency. Could you imagine the students, and we are talking about Belgrade protest, as you said, 515 people, the students without any accident, accept the canopy and what regime provoked. What kind of agency it gives to the people if they are able to create this kind of logistics with, you know, organizing the place to sleep, food for the students who came. So actually, people start to feel that together they can really organize this kind of event. There is a solidarity among them, and they have the agency. They can do something. It's, you know, this is like, I think, crucial moment that what really has changed in the society. That from this individualist group, which was feeling powerless and fragmented, it created the community.
Yeah, so like a bit of following this, I wanted to ask if you could like comment what did this students' movement during this year manage to gain, but also what's actually this, because we talked about agency and possibility to change, but what do you think it is actually to be changed? Now, because like the title of the meeting is a bit provocative. I don't know if it's visible or not, because the title is defending the democracy. And when people from here, from Poland, see defending the democracy, it's about, you know, we have to be crucial with the constitution. We have to concentrate on the constitution, on the law, blah, 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 but not on the people. And in your case, in Serbia, it's of course not about defending the procedures. It's about what we can see here, what I see from your comments. It's about this creating this solidarity, you know, and community. So actually coming back to this demos, to democracy, what should be about. It's the democracy and not procedurality of having cool party in the government. So that's my commenty question, whatever.
So two things. What they gained. Yeah, it works. So two things. The question is what the students gained and what changed. So I feel really actually quite jealous for this student generation and even the high schoolers, because I think that this has been going on for long enough that they gained this priceless experience of not consenting to corruption. And when I say not consenting to corruption, I'm not talking about the corruption of politicians, this organized crime unit, but to everyday corruption that we all witness, no matter where we live, in our workplace, they have the living experience of this. They have the experience of agency in a sense of being able to mobilize people behind this attitude. This is my hope. I cannot claim, but I truly hope that they will take this, no matter what happens now, Vučić goes, doesn't go, the government changes in a month, year, or 10 years, that this generation is going to take this with them in life. Because what we need, we need electoral system change, and we need, just today a colleague of ours wrote about the necessity of doing a new law on lustration in Serbia. So there are so many things that need to be done. But more importantly, all of us need to do it. So what changed is that, and this process is unfortunately was cut too short with the demand for snap elections, is that we started, all of us, in our different SNAFs. So this is also, this struggle in Serbia is also quite interestingly an SNAF fight. So people organized around their careers, doctors, teachers, poljoprivrednici, agricultural workers, etc. And we saw amazing things. We saw actors, because they wanted to support students, syndicalize. We saw people starting to look into their own spheres and pointing out to issues that stood there for years and years. And this process was really, unfortunately, stopped in a way, or put in a took a step back, because the student body realized that their principled demands are not going to be met by this corrupt government. So they very logically, so some say, this generation is a video game generation, so they have really clear goals, so level 1, okay, so this doesn't work, we need to do this. So, I mean, it's, when we're talking about making things terribly simple, but they realized, okay, these guys are not going to give in to our demands, what do? We change the government. But they were actually never interested in changing the government. So to go back to remember, they told Vučić, we do not care what you say. We are talking to the prosecution. We are talking to those institutions that should be doing. So these are, for me, what they gained. I feel that this is it, and I'm terribly jealous. What changed, I think it's going to be left to see. So we have hope that it's going to change these many complex systems, but I feel that in the decades to come, we're going to be feeling or seeing the traces of what's changed. And I'm sure when so many people are mobilized and values are so present, and this movement is really principled and value-based, that it cannot not change.
Seeing what's the time, I might just say that, especially after the 1st of November, which for us marked like the day when the full year is behind us, and we are clear about the fact that we cannot live like this until the end of our lives. So something needs changing, and we are aware of the fact that that change is not going to come with ease. The government is not going to give the snap elections, even though that's now the demand for quite some months. The question is, of course, how do we proceed from here? It's not made easier by the fact that immediately after the 1st of November, that is on the 2nd of November, the mother of one of the victims of the canopy started a hunger strike. And today is the 13th day of the hunger strike. So lives are fragile, and they tend to last for a specific portion of time, and this hunger strike is also what reminds us of that, and that even though we were given time by the student protest in a fundamental way, where we stopped to live, a majority of us, that kind of neoliberal, late capitalist mode of life where you're constantly rushing after something, and when there is never enough time, but we were given that time by at least some kind of blockade or blockage of how the life of the city or the cities worked, for example, and not just the life of the cities, but our own lives. However, life needs to continue, and even though we really came to learn incredible lessons in care, in solidarity, in respect, in understanding how it is important for each and every one of us that, I don't know, when the kids, when the students, when my kid was one of them, so I'm sorry to call them kids now. It's true. When they were passing next to the people, old people who came out with several apples or some very cheap chocolates or that kind of thing, you started to realize that that is more important than something very expensive or whatever. So you started to respect the fact that someone is taking care of you and is paying at least any kind of attention to you. This really goes against all this kind of transactional authoritarianism that Marta explains totally plainly here. When you simply start to realize that you might have to take care and that others are taking care of you. I cannot emphasize enough this notion of care. I know it's now a very trendy term in theory, but that's not what I'm doing here. It is somehow really in that last year that we understood that that reappeared, or it can be parts of our lives, or our communities, of our professions again. The question is, of course, what do we do when that is not institutionalized in any way, when the institutions are in fact taking away that care from us, when we are depending only on goodwill of people. I want to believe that the goodwill will be there to stay, but that cannot be enough. And this is then in the end, rule of law, constitution, the workings of laws is really important when you don't have it, So in the end, the anarchist in me hates it. But on the other hand, someone who passed through all of that, really democracy is then demos. So people who are communicating with one another and keeping one another standing, dignified standing, but also there needs to be an infrastructure, and the infrastructures are laws that are respected.
But actually, I also would like to ask you, actually, one more question. No, because I was really wondering, we were waiting all for 1st of November and what will happen. Somehow, and this is this kind of, when we are speaking about the protests, how it is organized, how it was organized, also in case of Serbia in 2000, that we are waiting for a leader, and we are waiting for the breakthrough. And actually, it's as you said, kids, let's say kids. It's the young people that everybody were and we also have seen it in the opinion polls that, this generation, it's not engaging politically, that, we were somehow saying that, okay, they are only playing video games. But actually, it's for me, it's quite fascinating that this approach from video games that, level 1, we want to achieve these goals, it's not working, so we are seeking, looking for the other.
Which is non-playable character.
Yeah. True. Actually, it's somehow, there's something which, we need a people, it's organization. Actually, they were quite effective in self-organizing and, team playing, somehow, and changing different strategies. But going back to this, that it was without leader and how they organize, how they decide to decide. And like, as you said, like institutions were taken, but they organized themselves and also supported people to organize themselves through the alternative organization. It's like our slogan here, don't burn the committees, create your own somehow. But when I'm speaking about this breakthrough, that we are waiting that something will happen, but nothing will happen. But something is happening on the ground, and the network is built, and somehow that we are, somehow used to waiting for a miracle or breakthrough, but somehow maybe it is more important what is really, and still it is happening on the ground, and how people are organizing. So this is like common reflection question.
Thank you, Marta, for pointing this out. It's, of course, a short time, and we really are grateful that you're listening to our impressions. I mean, because this is something that everybody has their own position. But, of course, the most important thing, and this is what political scientists are saying also, is direct democratic organizing of the students, which spilled over to the general population. So students called on to the citizens to also form citizen assemblies. We had, I found one number, so actually we don't have all the numbers, it's very peculiar. Hopefully there is going to be done soon, but I have here at least 150 citizen assemblies organized in municipalities, in cities. So this is something that was really crucially important in small places, because in Belgrade, of course, this kind of assembly organizing is more challenging. It's fascinating how these groups, so we're talking about citizens' assemblies, these groups automatically, naturally thought, yes, we formed to support the student movement, but we focus right away on our local issues. What is the main local issues in my municipality? What is the local issues? And they did this in parallel. So the political scientists in Serbia is saying that actually this is the most valuable, tangible change, because we have politicization of new people in a political context which is very which was very negatively perceived by people. So politics and participating in politics was negatively perceived. Student organizing, I mean, it's simply unbelievable that people so young made so little mistakes in this so we're talking about 100 different bodies directly democratically deciding, coordinating. Example from this moment. So right now we have a debate, should students publish the student list that they are preparing for the snap election. Whatever, they're not going to do it because primarily they fear for the safety of these candidates. But the fact that in a village country called Serbia, so the suburb of Calcutta country, you don't know the names of the list. The name of the list is held by one single student assembly. Nobody else knows. 5 people know. We could talk only, and probably it would be, and it's going to be talked about for years to come, how this organizing and all the elements of this organizing. We have criticism by many people in Serbia. This is too slow. It takes too much time. Politics needs to be fast. We already have doubts. How is this going to function when snap election is called without the electoral headquarters? I personally, I don't have doubts that this system is going to work. When talking about the machinery of the Progressive Party and their, we had 10, no, I don't, okay, 10 is too much, but we had 4 snap elections in the past 13 years, used as manipulation technique to gain more political power and voters. So the machinery that the government has is probably unsurmountable. But what the students did is not only in their own organizing, but all these assistance systems that were reverberately created, the citizen assemblies, we have the whole group of bikers. So we had I think it was 8,000 or 10,000 bikers united. I mean, it sounds like a scary movie. Like nobody wants 10,000 bikers coming at you. But this is amazing. What we are seeing is amazing, and we are seeing participatory democracy methods working. I do want to call you, if you're interested in hearing more about especially these deliberative practices by students. So on the 18th and 19th of November at our Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory, there's going to be 2 days presenting, I think, more than 10 or 20 research that was done by scientists during the past year about the student movement. So some information, even we are going to hear for the first time, is going to be online, so you can check it on our website. Yeah.
So now, as we have to a bit go to the end, unfortunately, so please also think about some questions. If you still don't have any questions to be asked, please think about this. So I will finish with a very classical question, even though I don't have such a beard and mustache, but what is to be done now? Especially as we listen, in Poland, but as we can hear, your struggle there is also international, because the students have to fight, of course, with Vučić, but Vučić is not alone. No? He's being supported by all of forms of capital. This awful monstrosity that really wants to have your lithium and all of your resources. So it's a fight against, it's not only fight against Vučić and all these horrible stereotypical far-right guys who look like bad guys from Scooby-Doo, but it's just with a big phantom, actually. So what is to be done also to us? I'm asking you as a young Pole from the North Slavic that cannot smile. So yeah.
Not smile, yeah.
Yes.
Unlike us who smile even when it's not funny. The South Poles, the South Slavs. You see, this happens. What is to be done? Of course, there is no one answer. I think as we are here to internationalize, any kind of help in internationalization is a real help. Marta Špala did an incredible work since November last year, starting to write and speak, and then somehow ignite the interest. I think that is absolutely important in this moment, because as we can see, after a very long period of time, European Union started to show some interest into this. Luckily, US is not interested in Serbia. If it starts to be interested, then the end is near.
Because they're in Riviera phase.
They're generally in a Riviera phase, so that is one thing, and internationalization goes together with Expo 2027. That is the end of this transactional authoritarianism. Then they plan to remove themselves to some lovely islands with a lot of money. So if Poland is part of Expo or plans to do it... Declined? Perfect. Then you did your job. Thanks.
I like this one. It's like Christmas wishes. I would for sure like more people to be inspired, as I was, about not consenting. I think this is the work that we can do all over. I think it's important what Krzysztof says about how student movement was perceived. For us, it was very interesting to see that no big power supported the student movement. Not the Chinese, not the Germans, not the Americans, not the EU. So, what was the issue here? I'm guessing they didn't really like so many young people fighting outside the system. So we didn't have this conversation. This is an important conversation of what is the relationship of students with the parliamentary, liberal parliamentary democracy, with the fighting with, against, through the system, etc. We also didn't talk about the many different same generation protests in Nepal, in Madagascar, in Indonesia. We didn't talk about the dedication of Serbian students to violent struggles, which today, like, who dares talk about pacifism? Who dares talk about peace? So I would like to see more of what Serbian students did all around. I'd like to see more of that in Serbia and elsewhere.
I would say what Adriana said, like internationalization and support from outside is also important. We have the students here who are organizing the support for the students in Serbia. And also I would like to see our universities to really support academic freedom, because we also didn't talk about it, but this is like what system is doing now. It's like destroying like everybody who dare to stand with the students, like entrepreneurs, university professors, school system, education system, culture system. It's like every institution who supported, and every individual who supported. And I think that this is like crucial moment, actually. Not because, like, as I try to describe you, it's like it's not like Belarus that they are putting the people in prison. They are
putting people in prison.
Also, but not in such a number, you know, but rather they are breaking but they are also breaking like all supporting networks and everybody who dare to support. And I think this is like, if you are, I don't know, like I would like to see our universities to support academic freedom in Serbia, theaters supporting what is happening in the theaters and against theaters and every institution in Serbia. So I would like to see that sometimes we think that this is not important, but I think it is important to see that, to show that we are seeing and watching and observing what is happening, and, you know, stay in solidarity with some kind of institution. You decide which one to protect. It's like you can protect.
If I may, very shortly, I was so touched when I heard about students here organizing support. I was touched to read the name Novi Sad coming from a Polish document. This is internationalization. This is that we feel that these struggles far away are actually arting. It's a difficult issue, and right now we are going through even more terrible things happening in the world today than what is going on in Serbia. So thank you in the name of, for sure, student movement and our personally.
So works? Okay. I wanted to ask you if you have any questions, maybe, and I hope you have questions, because I don't have much, so please help me as well. I see one person here. We'll collect, and yeah.
Dzięki. Za początek dobrodošli. Trenutno was pitam. Michał Kozłowski from the University of Warsaw. Well, I happened to spend almost the last entire year in Belgrade, so I'm pretty much in touch with what is happening and how amazing the movement is. And because my question would be rather difficult, I wanted you to be sure that I completely support the movement. I'm even amazed by it, because indeed it is amazing that in a country in such a situation, well, it was never easy, such a movement from below to top, bottom up, emerged, and as such, I mean, why your neighbors don't have, I mean, it is something. But on the other hand, I would say, I think it's hard to imagine for the people here how enormously complex, ambiguous, and unclear is the ideological landscape in Serbia. And those contradictions you see everywhere. You know, on the one hand, well, the student movement is virtually organized after, you know, all the power to the Soviets. It's like the plenum is all the direct democracy, but for those who show up, of course, because there is always this problem with direct democracy. This is on the one hand. On the other hand, on the demos, the only symbols that are not directly anti-Vucic, Pumpaj, or anything else are Orthodox icons. And yeah, I saw Tito twice, but I think it was in a very ironic and smart way. It's very rare.
Ferrari flag.
So the question is, you know, anti-corruption agenda is the most elusive one politically. And not mention, well, we had a governing party until recently that started as anti-corruption party to become the most corrupt country in the party in the history of this country. So I would say, you know, and there are so many elephants in the room. You know, there is Kosovo, there is the past, there is the future, there's economic model, there is Russia. And there is the EU, yeah, also. And, you know, you have to understand it's completely not like the Maidan. I mean, they are, and I understand why, because they are too divided on those issues. They would never do anything together if they addressed them. So they are silent about so many important things in the country, which I appreciate as a proof of maturity, but also doesn't erase the problem. That's my...
Clarify your question. What is the problem?
Sorry.
No, but what is the problem?
I think I was pretty clear.
Why is it problematic?
Where are you? I mean, no, because you have to face those choices. And you pretend that those choices don't exist.
You mean the government?
And they are symbols like, you know, direct democracy you won't have. Now you want, students started with the talk, with the discourse of we don't want politics, we just want institutions to work. But institutions never worked. You know, so they knew that it, well, no, it was never, perhaps it was not so bad as now for a long time, but you couldn't say that there was ever a model of a rule of law. Yeah? So in this sense, do you think you can really avoid those ideological questions and move forward?
You know, I mean, the question is absolutely pertinent and to the point. And yes, we, the adults of the movement, let us call it that way, we have troubles with issues that are burning issues. And quite some of them are. So what is the economic, what is the political, what is the ideological frame into which we will in the future end up? Many have asked that question, and rightly so. On the other hand, it is so strongly happening now, and without the direction into that future, so that for many, myself included, it's often very far-fetched to even think about that day after the revolution succeeds, because we don't know when and how that is going to happen. That is one part of the answer. Not a very good one, but a one from the ground. The other part is we have to work with what we have. So you are right. There was never the rule of law installed and then deteriorating, and then now we want to correct this and that. We have to work with what we have. We have to work with people that live there and that decided to stay there. And one of the main things about these young people of Serbia, the students, is that they said, we don't want to leave. So that means we have to work with the history we have to work with the bad systems that we have, but somehow, to maybe hope, it is possible to change. And the third part of the question is, yes, the majority of students decided to find the minimal denominator. That meant, for example, in this case, the constitutional patriotism. Constitutional patriotism was a very potent tool in your hands to fight the president who has very, very limited constitutional privileges, or what he can do by the constitution, but he breaches the constitution every day, several times per day. On the other hand, if you wanted to abide to the constitution, wherever your heart was in terms of Kosovo, you had to accept that Kosovo is part of Serbia. It is written in the constitution, in the preamble. So, you know, this is what we have, and this is what the young people who started this may be talking about anti-corruption at the start. Now it's not about anti-corruption solely. And it's, for a long time, it's not just about anti-corruption. So from that point of view, I think this is the idea that in the end, also the older part of that cohort started to learn that we have to work with what we have and not with the, you know, utopian or dystopian understandings of what kind of Serbia never was and never will be, but with what it is and what we have to somehow deal with.
Okay. Like I would say that especially in Poland, we can think about our '89 election. It was against communism. And later on, we started to thought about ideology, difference in our democratic opposition, let's say. Actually, and I think this is like first thing. I don't agree that the icon are the most seen at the protest. I would say that in March we have it's like city flag, community, university flag that people were looking for the symbolism, some kind of different one. Then and you said Maidan. Yeah, but this is like, actually I would say this is a question to us, European Union, why Serbian students don't think EU is supporting the values they are fighting for. Democracy, rule of law, accountability of the government, democratic election. And you know, I think, and like when I spoke and travel, people say, yeah, we are we are supporting democratic, like European values, but we don't see EU is protecting and supporting these values in the Serbia, and this is why there is no EU flag during the protest. It's another thing, and when we are speaking about the ideology, it's okay. I'm working. It's like my PhD is about environmental protest movement. I met a lot of people there, also like royalist, right-wing supporters.
It's a conservative moment.
Yeah. But actually, it's like we are all speaking about rule of law and regaining the institution in the sake of the citizens. And I think now it is especially, like, this is like thing which unites them. People from the left, not maybe anarchists, but also to some extent. And you know, this kind of like dilemma, actually is like, Vucic was playing with that for quite a while, you know, like that, you know, this is the people who are like right wing, left wing. But the thing is that as we, like, I don't know, at least as I understand, as I think what is important, we need functioning institution. We need the institution who are, you know, working for the citizens. And this is, and of course, like at one point, like this kind of question, like Kosovo, have to be addressed. But I think it is not the right time, and you know, and also actually, I would say that this is the narrative of the regime. What they are trying to convince European Union, don't support the students because they are nationalistic. And actually, a lot of things, a lot of flags, Kosovo nema predaje. It is not the people are bringing these flags. This is the people from the regime who are bringing these flags to present, especially for the Western audience, the protest in such a way.
So we all took turns, sorry, because it is an important question, and thank you for raising it, and thank you for being there to see it with your eyes. You're going to be very valuable in adding to this discourse. I don't think the moment is anti-corruption. I think it's anti-systemic. And this is actually a more interesting question in this crazy mixture of everything. How can it be anti-systemic, which is when it is asking that the system works and it's being organized in a outside of the system manner. this is to go back to how Marta started, and I wrote this down. I like how it sounds. Serbia is a democracy laboratory. We're like, trying out new things, worker self-management during the communist period, illiberal democracy, we coin new terms, now we have a little joke, but it's of course when the system is that unstable, I think this is one of the answers. System is unstable. This is why you get. And this is why the European Union doesn't support it, because they say, who am I going to speak to? Take me to your leader. And the students say, I have no leader. Why are there nationalist symbols in, this is also going to be, I think thousands of studies are going to be done on this one. But my guess is, student prohibited any flags that are not university flags, city, if they're moving from city to city, or Serbian flags. And actually, for quite a short time there, we talked about this often. So we were raised very, after the wars of the 90s, our generation whose parents were not radically nationalists, were not at the throat of their neighbors or doing the war. We were raised to be very wary of nationalist symbols. We are not, we don't like seeing the flag. I don't like seeing it here, by the way. I mean, it's that deep in me. But when we saw it those first months, and back then, it was the early days. You didn't have that strong iconography, nationally traditionalist, that it began to show up later. We, for the first time, or after many years, saw this flag in the light of I can't even explain it. It's not like uniting of it's national pride, uniting of a people. It's just, this is what they wanted to show us. So we care to fix what's going on here. And this is maybe also a part of the answer about the ideologies and their consequences of not having a clear trajectory of a country in the logical sense. I honestly think they don't discuss it. They don't think about these issues. They thought about Kosovo in a way. Our colleagues are there as well. So there is a university in Pristina, not for a very long time as what we hear is going on. And it's in the constitution, whatever. We have University of Faculty of Law, which we know that their assembly is more nationalist leaning. We have the Faculty of Philosophy, which we know is left-wing, all the way to radical left-wing leaning. For me, it's fascinating that they've been working together for a year in organizing. I think this is also something in terms of, so it's not chaos of ideology, it's actually pluralistic democracy working, but working for a very specific goal at this time. The house is burning. You're not looking at the issues. And thankfully, we are not in a situation where somebody is asking us to go to war, because this is going to be the moment where we have to okay, wait, what is our ideology, what should we do? I personally think that this is healthy, that this is good, that this is mature. I think that this is how these young people also show that priority is the way we live, the way we organize. Do we have where to sleep? Do we have what to eat? Are people getting paid? That these are the issues that are not, should not be ideological. It's maybe too hopeful. These issues are going to come out. Maybe in the next 5 years we're going to see explosion of chaos in ideological sense. We cannot negate that nationalism is present in Serbia, strong in Serbia. We cannot negate that it's gaining momentum in Europe. How these young people are going to deal with this, we will see.
Okay, so now we just have two last questions, so please, Mateusz.
Yes, I want to ask, maybe I'm using some myth, so if yes, you can debunk it, but in Polish left-wing circles, like the communist Yugoslavia have very good, like, renommé, very good, like, people like it because they are opposing like the direct workers' democracy in Yugoslavia and, for example, like more bureaucratic socialism in the rest of like West Bloc countries. Also, the left-wing oppositionists during the communist era in Poland, they had very good feelings to the communist Yugoslavia. They want to rebuild communism like as it was in Yugoslavia. And my question is, like, are current protesters somehow connected to this tradition of this workers' democracy? Are they working together with workers? Because you have said they are building these councils, these Soviets. So I want to, ask about that.
There was another question. There was a question there. That girl first on.
Because because this was part also of a previous question, very important thing. The student movement is asking for elections. They're asking for the liberal parliamentary democratic system to function. There is no communist conspiracy, okay?
Unfortunately.
Thank you so much for noticing me. That's very sweet. My name is Julia Kuminova. I'm a student at the Faculty of Sociology at the University of Warsaw. And my question to you, I know it's going to be very difficult to answer, but if you could try, I would be very grateful. So the first is, what is the strength of the current regime? Because often when we see authoritarian leaders, they seem like those evil guys from Scooby-Doo, as somebody here said. And it's not really clear with such mobilization of the people, how does the regime still hold on? So what is the strength and what is the power of the regime? And the second question is connected, how do you see it fallen? If you see a scenario of the regime change, what does it look like, right? I'm not asking about the goal of the protests per se, but if you see how the situation could develop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katarzyna Bilińska, University of Warsaw. Prvo da kažem da mi je jako drago što ste došle. Kako vidite na našem faksu, mi samo pričamo srpski. My question is, could we draw any parallels or comparisons between this movement of direct democracy in Serbia and other movements in the region, including Bosnia 2014 and Croatia 2009?
As the student said, the question was absolutely impossible to answer, at least in any kind of fast way. I would just want to draw your attention to everything that Marta said at the start. And to say that this is a process, it's a build-up. It's a very clever project-like build-up, where there is a clique at the top, which is the elite, and it wants to sell that the others are elites. It's a populist strategy, of course. But there is a clique at the top that has very strong financial reasons to keep the power, to, as our president does, to have friends everywhere, to keep him and the likes of him there. The people who are supporting that regime are existent, so they do exist. They belong to various strata. Today it is clear, again, we're talking about certain kind of research also done by our colleagues at the Institute and others. The people who support the regime belong either to the highest echelons of society, so the richest, those who have to gain from the transactions a lot, or to those who are the poorest, who are the eldest, who are the least literate, and who also have something to gain from the transaction. That is not going to be much, but for them it's going to be a lot. And then you have also those who trust in some kind of ideology, or because this is not an ideological regime, it's a catch-all regime that can sell anything from traditional values to gender equality, literally. So it can sell anything. But then you have that cohort of people who look for a strong, stable, whatever government that will not change. We have that in Turkey, we have that in Belarus, we have that in, I don't know, in Russia, and we have that in places where having something that lasts for more than a decade somehow guarantees stability and prosperity and peace, and especially if those are the words used by that government, you know, constantly garnered in every speech, then some people tend to believe in that. And then all these others who are against, you somehow keep divided by creating divisions, by killing off the opposition and the strength of oppositional parties, whatever they hold, whatever ideology they hold. And in a way, Marta said, what's the state of the media? I mean, it really is like, if you can imagine, like 2 cable station and 3 printed media. It's really not much. Maybe I should stop here and because otherwise we're going to stay forever.
So the main thing they say about particularly Vučić is propaganda. Okay, so media is key. And of course, what Marta spoke about, 13 years of this transactional authoritarianism. So too many people having interest in not letting the government fall. But I want to read to you the other question that you had. So the Belgrade Security Policy Center did a policy brief about possible scenarios from, they said, November 2025 until June 2026. So they say this. So scenario 1, controlled repression, waning protests, and silent authoritarian consolidation. That's one scenario. Second scenario, the EU mediation leads to a fragile negotiated transition, including a technical government and early elections. Scenario 3, intensified repression sparks chaos, risking collapse of government and regional spillover. And scenario 4, earlier actions provide an opportunity but risk electoral manipulation or regime orchestrated sabotage and violence. And they say, these 4 possible outcomes, political vacuum, negotiated transition, regime collapse, or authoritarian consolidation, are each capable of evolving into one another depending on internal and external pressures. It's interesting, somebody did this, so I'm going to read you just how clear-minded political scientists think about this. So yeah, the question about the similarities and, you want to, Marta?
Well, of course, there are similarities, and some at the very start. That was especially those were drawn between Zagreb, that is Croatia, and Serbia. And naturally, whenever you call on the Croats, that's the chance for the small war to start immediately, which was very much used by the government. And very often the students were called Ustašas and Croats and these and the likes. Yet, on the other hand, with a sense of very beautiful humor, already by the end of December, the students said, yeah, we understand one another, and we're creating various kinds of memes on that topic. So like the Blokadna kuharica, that is like blockade cookbook, that was prepared in Zagreb. Yes, we took it, we used it. We know what we want is the same ideal. And I would say that even more so, the logic of Sarajevo and Bosnia 2013 protest was ingrained in the sense of, and this is also in a way the answer to your question, the idea that it is not just the liberal democracy model where we want elections. This idea of the change of system is incredibly important, and the idea of the social change, which is what was there in Bosnia, was incredibly important, even more so than in Croatian case, which was very student-based. So from that point of view, the students were happy to share in all directions. I think at the very start of January, they created, the students of philological faculty created like a very short memo on what they're doing, and they wanted to spread a word, which I think was too early to internationalize their struggles and infect the students abroad, but who knows, maybe that will happen.
About the regime, I think sometimes, you know, the regime looks strongest just before it collapsed. So this is the thing. And as also Adriana said, like, okay, maybe I will start from different angle. So for me, even before the protest started, like last year, I somehow had this kind of feeling that the regime is hitting the wall. Actually, this narrative about economic tiger, the golden era of Serbian economy, which it built its popularity on, because actually we can, like, okay, we can say that they were lucky enough, or somehow they were capable to do so, that last 10 years before the protest, it was the era of economic progress in Serbia. Salaries went up, unemployment go down. So actually, people were somehow, and it was also the reasoning why people were supporting Vučić, that, you know, it's like at least economic situation improved. And they were building roads and railway station and something. And they were falling. Yeah, that's true. But somehow, in comparison, I don't know, we didn't feel it that way, but, you know, in Serbia, 2008 financial crisis, it was disaster. Quarter of the population lost the jobs. You know, so unemployment was very, very high, the minimum salary, people didn't have the money. So Vučić through this transactionalism, he bring the investment to small cities, he gave people the jobs. And, you know, this is this kind of support he has. But somehow, this was my impression when I'm working on Serbia, that, you know, he's run out of resources. Serbia is now not attractive for the investors because labor is not that cheap. People are leaving, so actually, a lot of people left because of the political system. And people started to demand more, like functioning institution, health system, which is collapsing. So actually, without or with protest, he actually has to reinvent itself. And it didn't have the idea how to do it, because this idea of economic prosperity wasn't working, and all resources were sold out. So actually, it's like there is nothing to privatize in Serbia anymore. So how to buy the support of the foreigners, actually. So I think, like, when we are speaking about the financial, and actually it's like, you know, this is like student protest. How to frame it? It's a good excuse for Vučić that country is not developing anymore, because he can blame students that economy is collapsing, but actually this was the structural problem which were there before. This is the thing, and this is the question, because actually, like, from the political analyst point of view, he was quite capable and effective in, you know, bringing the support for foreigners, dividing the society. Somehow, now it is, and you can see that they made a lot of mistakes during the protests, how they were reacting, and, you know, somehow they are lost. So when we are speaking of the scenarios, actually, it's like with the protest, we see that sometimes when the people are demobilized, they are doing something which reinvigorate the protest movement, because they started to beat people, you know, to act violently. Somehow, they actually, we talk about the students, I think there was like really few mistakes they made. The government did a lot. And actually now this is the question, we have US sanction of energy sector, we have like which influenced the relation with Russia, and also we are speaking about the protest, and somehow it's like, I know it's like very hard for you, like as you also described, to be in this kind of protest for 1 year when the, you know, normal life is somehow suspended because you are on the street.
3 generations.
Yeah, but also this year. But somehow also for EU now it is really hard to ignore, because, you know, like, okay, 1 month protest you can ignore, 2 months you can ignore, 1 year it's really hard to ignore. But as you also, like, the regime is still controlling security system. They hired a lot of policemen, new policemen. They are buying the people. We don't know how financially stable the party is, and if they would like to, because it's also like with Russia, now they need to pay to use their own private money to support the system. And you know, it's always like creating some kind of destabilization in oligarchy, you know that. And they somehow get used to, when we are speaking about the biggest, like the highest strata of society, to gaining more and more. And now they have to pay to sustain the system. So this is also the question how the elites will behave. And somehow that, you know, Serbia is also, because of the protests, you know, the foreign investors, they are not coming. They are not coming because the system is so corrupt and the institution is not working to this extent that nobody wants to invest. So this creates, I would say, unfavorable circumstances for Vučić. And as I said, I think he's very tired and really don't know what to do.
Okay, so in that case, as already were a bit after time, yeah, it was wonderful to have you here. I'm sorry for